Hi folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel and to another Monday. It's a public holiday where I am. It's Victoria Day. Where if you are beginning your work week, hopefully your work week is okay for you so far. So a number of outlets are reporting it. I'm looking at TalkSport's social media right now. It appears that the legal dispute, the defamation lawsuit, looks like that's not going to proceed. It looks like it's been settled. For those of you that don't remember, Chris Eubank Jr. Referred to Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn and basically all promoters in a way that one could consider to be defamatory. Others would say truth or justification, and that there are plenty of receipts, if you like, that could have been used by Chris Eubank Jr. had the matter gone to court. The only thing we really know for certain about the law is the cost, right? And if it doesn't make sense to proceed with a lawsuit, if there's some other way of dealing with the issue so that, everybody is sort of made whole, and that, bruised egos can be set aside, but, no damage, no lasting damage caused, that sort of stuff. If you can avoid going to court, then most people do. In fact, I think the legal system would collapse if everybody said, right, no, every time we file a statement of claim, we plan on ending up in front of a judge. I don't think we've got a legal system. I say we, any jurisdiction I've ever visited. So, that's a fair number. Anyways, so they've come to some sort of terms. The terms will not be, made known to us. I'd be surprised if it did become known to us. Eubank had called Warren in particular, a scumbag. He'd retracted it the same day. So, there's lots of sort of like, oh yes, well he did say something that was, arguably, some people would say there are receipts, but whatever. What does that word mean? But importantly, Eubank apologized the same day. He said, I would like to retract my inaccurate statements and offer my apologies to Frank Warren. So, damage was not necessarily really big, and it lasted for a relatively short period of time. What have they said? They released a statement, apparently. The statement read, Frank Warren and Chris Eubank Jr. confirm that the defamation proceedings against Chris Eubank Jr. have been settled amicably. With these proceedings now settled, both Frank Warren and Chris Eubank Jr. look forward to a positive professional relationship in the future. So people might say a number of things that could have happened here. Chris Eubank could have written a check and said, look, I think I damaged you, or whatever, this represents what we think the damage really is. And Frank Warren would have said, I think it should be more, but okay, I'll accept this check. That's like the easiest way to deal with this. But it might be that since Frank Warren has in his stable several people who he might wish to match against Chris Eubank Jr., I'm thinking possibly Hamza Shiraz, that, both parties might have thought, look, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Something bad was said, a writ has been filed, we'll settle it for virtually nothing, but, down the road, we'd like you to be available, sort of agreements in principle, etc., whatever, that you'll find Hamza Shiraz if he can come through, Edgar Belanger, whatever, some sort of deal could have been done, right? And it might have been that other people in the industry sort of had their 10 penneth worth to say, as it were, and said some version of, look, like, we're all making money here. Let's move on. Maybe even George Warren, who I think sort of runs the business side very much of Queensberry, might have said to his dad, look, Dad, we can do well here. We don't need to be distracted with this. And it might well have been the case that Frank Warren might have thought, ooh, Eubank Jr. might actually have some receipts. I don't want to be airing dirty laundry. So for whatever reason, they've walked away. I think that's a good thing. It does clear the air. It allows for Eubank Jr. to have a broader range of opponents. Let's move on. It was an interesting 5 minutes in a press conference, and I don't think anybody who was seriously thinking of doing business with Frank Warren has suddenly decided they don't, based on what Chris Eubank Jr. said. People have kind of known a lot about Frank Warren for a long time, and certain views are probably, as the business term is, baked in. So anyways, there we go. That's all for the moment. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Reached another milestone. I think we're at 1,400 subscribers. That's awesomely good news, right? Yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.